Hey Chaotic Crew, back again with another Final Fantasy Commander Precon review and upgrade. This time we're going over Scions and Spellcraft. It's of course the Esper Spellslinger deck. Very cool deck here. This is the second out of 4, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video so you don't miss out on our future uploads. Basically, we're going to be going over this deck, what the deck does well, what the deck struggles with, and going to be taking out 10 cards, putting in 10 more cards. I'd say out of the 4, this one's probably one of the easiest to take cards out of. Just as a basic overview, quickly, you know, Wizards kind of trying to do a little bit too many things with this deck. So kind of easy to take cards out to make one strategy better. But let's dive right into it. The commander of the deck is Y'shtola, Knight's Blessed, 1 and Esper for 2/4 Cat Warlock. So pretty interesting type there. Has Vigilance. And beginning of your each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw cards. That's each person's turn. And then the second ability is whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So if you can cast 2 non-creature spells a turn, you essentially turn your commander on. Your commander also has 2 power, so if you can cast a non-creature spell and then attack someone, you get that as well. Y'shtola is probably not going to do something the turn that you play her. Is a good blocker to play, and then you start getting value over time. But one of those commanders you just put on the board and you kind of wait, which is fine. It's not really a massive target immediately, but if someone doesn't have anything better to deal with, then yeah, they could totally kill Y'shtola. In the deck, Baleful Strix as a fun reprint. 2 mana, 1/1 Flying Death Toucher. When it enters, you draw a card. So replaces itself, not bad. And a great blocker, deter people from attacking you, which is important. New card, Hildebrand Vanderbilt. It's 1 and a white for a 2/2 Human Detective. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1. When Hildebrand Vanderbilt dies, you may cast it from your graveyard as an adventure until the end of your next turn. And the adventure side is an instant for 2 and a black, and you make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So pretty cool. He keeps coming back, and he makes zombies, so very neat there. Hypnotic Sprite, 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer. This is a reprint from Eldraine, if I'm not mistaken. And Mesmeric Glare, 2 of anything in a blue for an instant. Counter target spell with mana value 3 or less. So, just not an amazing counter, but it's a solid counter. And also comes with a creature attached to it as well, so not bad. I think this is Kryle or Krilly, or I don't know. Baldesian? Who knows? 2 mana for a 2/1 lifelinker. And has whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may return target creature card with mana value equal to that spell's mana value from your graveyard to your hand. Do this only once each turn. So very interesting. This deck kind of, as you can tell, is starting to have a bit of a Legends Matter theme, but also wants to cast non-creature spells. So something to keep in mind there. Totolomo. 2 mana, I'm probably butchering these names. 2 mana, 1/2 in Orzhov, and when you cast a non-creature spell, it does 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. So that's pretty good. It actually does similar to what your commander does, so that's nice. You can pay 4, tap, and sacrifice the creature. Each opponent who lost life this turn sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. It's a bit expensive for that ability, but very, very cool to have that on a creature, on someone who's, essentially burning each of your opponents. Taru, 1 and a white for a legendary dwarf advisor, 0/3. When it enters, you draw a card, and target opponent may draw a card as well. And then whenever an opponent draws a card, if it isn't that player's turn, you make a tapped treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. So that's pretty neat. This is deceptively good. You don't think it's going to be that great, but there are a lot of people who draw cards when it's not their turn. So something to keep in mind there. Urianger Augerelt. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, you gain 2 life. You can tap him to look at the top card of your library. You may exile it face down. You can also tap him to have until end of turn. You may play cards exiled with this creature. Spells you cast this way cost 2 less to cast. So a bit slow, but if you can have some untapped shenanigans, can do some fun things here. Alice Leveler, again, butchering that name. 2 of anything and a white. Partners with Alphanod, has first strike, and the second spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. I think this is amazing in this deck. Cards like this that make the second spell cost less is really strong because your commander wants to be casting very high mana value cards and really ideally wants to cast 2 a turn. So that's really good there. And then what's great is that it partners with the creature. Let's go ahead and go down to the partner. Alphanod, 4 mana for a 2/4. Has Vigilance. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. So these both work really well with each other. And basically has it to where, Alphanod will only cost 2 if your first is Alice, right? So very cool there. Ardbert, Warrior of Darkness, 3 mana for a legendary Spirit Warrior. Whenever you cast a white spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary creature you control. They gain Vigilance until end of turn. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary creature you control. They gain Menace until end of turn. So this is a fun little card, to buff up your board, right? And there's a lot of legends in this deck, and this can do pretty well. It can make your commander harder to block. It's alright, but it's really focused on the creature aspect of the deck, and I feel like your commander is focused more on the non-creature, so that's something to keep in mind there, but a very good card. Graha Tia, Scion Reborn, Esper colors for 2/3 with lifelink, and it has, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay X life for X that spell's mana value. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless hero and put X 1/1 counters on it. Do this only once each turn. So, kind of neat. You get to make tokens. If you're wanting to make, an Esper deck that makes tokens when you cast non-creature spells, this is a good commander for that. So, not bad there. Lee's Hexed. 1 and Zorius for prowess. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. As long as you cast 2 or more non-creature spells this turn, Lee's Hex has double strike. So very strong there, and good in any prowess deck, and in the new Jeskai prowess stuff, very strong card there too. Especially since it's making your non-creatures cost 1 less as well. Good in planeswalkers, good in artifacts, good in Spellslinger, right? Either way, it just does a lot there. Murderous Rider is a great reprint here as some removal and a body, right? We already talked about Alphanod. Archmage Emeritus is fantastic. As we cast these non-creature spells, they refill our hand, we draw cards. Of course, our commander's drawing cards as well, right? But it is making sure that, for every spell we cast that's a non-creature or that's instant sorcery, we will be drawing cards. Emmett Selk of the 3rd seat. 4 mana for a 3/4. Spells you cast from your graveyard cost 2 less to cast. Whenever one or more opponents lose life, you may cast target instant or sorcery from your graveyard. That spell will be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Do this only once each turn. So this is neat. The first ability plays off the second. You don't really need a ton of flashback or jumpstart cards to really make the most use out of Emmett. If you were building an Emmett Selk deck, you'd probably have those cards in there. But since our commander's already making our opponents lose life, it kind of fuels Emmett Selk. So pretty good fit in there. Estinian Varlinio, 2 Orzhov for a 3/3. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets a 1/1 counter, and it also gains flying until end of turn. So immediately, the turn after it comes out, you are going to get a 1/1 counter and can hit somebody for 4. So automatically trigger your commander. Beginning of your second main phase, you draw X cards and lose X life, or X is the number of your opponents who are dealt combat damage by this guy or a dragon this turn. So, also going in a different direction, I think it synergizes with the deck because you're making an opponent lose 4 life, right, after casting on a creature spell. So there's that, and then you'll be drawing a card and losing a life at the second main phase. So that's something to think about, right? Not amazing, but similar to Ardbert, where it's kind of focusing on the creatures you have instead of the non-creatures. Hermes, Overseer of Elpis, is really neat. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 blue bird token with flying and vigilance. And whenever you attack with one of our birds, scry 2. So really great. And the bird kindred commander deck you can make now, but also solid to just, make a bunch of blockers, right? Because they have flying and vigilance. And then you can attack with one bird as scry 2 each turn. So that's really neat there too. Van Daniel is 4 and a black for a 4/5. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, surveil 1. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent may sacrifice a non-token creature of their choice. Each opponent who doesn't loses 2 life for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. So we are doing, burn damage to our opponent, and this is going to help speed that up as well. So really good there. Hraze Velger of the First Brood, Elder Dragon, 5/5 for 5 mana, has Flying Vigilance Ward 2. Whenever it enters and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked. So good here in a deck that cares about both non-creatures and about creatures. Summon Good King Mog the 7th. So really cool, fun card here. You essentially, it's a 4/4 flying lifelinker. You make 2 1/2 Moogles with lifelink, and then the second and third chapter, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make token copies of non-sagas tokens you control, which are going to most likely be the Moogles in this deck. And then the fourth counter puts 2 1/1 counters on each other Moogle you control, and then this gets sacrificed. So, this is cool. You're gonna make a bunch of Moogle tokens here, but does this deck really want that? I don't know. It's not a non-creature spell either, because it's a creature. So, yeah, I don't know. Something to think about there. But a fun card, a good card in any kind of summon deck, or any deck that cares about that. Thancred Waters sounds like a low budget Netflix show, but 4 of anything in a white for 3/5 with flash. When he enters, another target legendary creature or legendary permanent you control gains indestructible for as long as you control Thancred Waters. Then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Thancred Waters gains indestructible until end of turn. So this is a expensive protection, but also can protect himself after you've done that. So kind of cool there. Then we got a Torrential Gearhulk reprint, which is always nice. Lots of spells, of course, to go through. Swords to Plowshares, fantastic removal. Exsanguinate to gain some life, which is really nice. We're burning our opponents, so having a way to sort of close the game out or really put some pressure on and get some life back is helpful. Cut a Deal is much better than the Secret Rendezvous, so love that. Lingering Souls to get a couple tokens out, and nice, always good to get it. Having Flashback is really great as well, because you can cast it again from your graveyard. Transpose, 3 mana, new card, instant. Draw a card, then discard a card, you lose 1 life. If it was cast from your hand, you make a 0/1 black wizard with whenever you cast a non-creature spell. This token deals 1 damage to each opponent. Also has rebound. So, kind of just like doing what your commander wants to do, casting these spells and going from there. Vindicate destroys a target permanent. Void Rend, same thing. Circle of Power is a new card as well. You draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. You make a black wizard with whenever you cast a non-creature spell. This token deals 1 damage to each opponent. Wizards you control get +1/+0 and gain lifelink until end of turn. So, help gain back some of the life you're losing here. Lethal Scheme is great, especially because this deck has a lot of creatures in it. So you can convoke it out and cast it for free. It's going to fulfill your commander's requirements. Deal 2 damage to each opponent and gain 2 life, and then can destroy a creature and then connive. So draw a bunch of cards, discard a bunch of cards. That's always nice. Right of Application is super cool. Great to get a copy out and get a lot of value off of it. Snuff Out, another free mana, cost card that fills your commander's requirements. Siphoned Mind is great because you make each opponent discard a card and then draw 3. If you're playing in a pot of 5 or 6, you draw even more. Cleansing Nova is nice. Sometimes you just got rid of all artifacts and enchantments. Sometimes you got to get rid of all creatures, right? We're running lots of artifacts and enchantments too, because just non-creature spells in general are helping this deck out. So typically you're probably going to be destroying all creatures with this. Crux of Fate, interesting to have. It destroys all non-dragons or all dragons. We run like 1 dragon in here, so not really great, but was I guess more of a flavor fit since we're putting Hraze Velger in there, and Crux of Fate looks like Hraze Velger lost. Final Judgment, 6 mana to exile all creatures. That's definitely not bad here. Sublime Epiphany, 6 mana for essentially a counter spell. You can also counter an activated or triggered ability. This is probably one of my favorite counter spells because it does so much, and if you have the mana for it, it can be really nice. You also can return an online permanent to its owner's hand, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Target player draws a card. The making a token of a creature you control is difficult because you have so many legendary creatures here, but yeah, I mean, if you are keeping in the summon, you can make a copy of that. That's really strong. But yeah, good to know there. Into the Story, 7 mana, but it costs 3 less to cast. If an opponent has 7 or more cards in their graveyard, you draw 4 cards. So, you know, essentially 5 mana, or excuse me, 4 mana to draw 4 cards is not bad at all. And you also proc your commander's ability. Dig Through Time is also great, and will proc your commander. Artifacts, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet are pretty basic there. Astrologian's Planisphere is a newer card. You can't really see what it does, but it's, you know, an equipment. It creates a 1/1 token that it attaches to, and then it has, when you cast your, you know, first, and when you cast a non-creature spell, the creature gets a 1/1 counter, and when you draw your 3rd card each turn, you get a 1/1 counter on that creature, which helps with the deck. You're going to be drawing cards. You're going to be, I don't know if you're drawing 3 cards in a turn that often, but we are casting a lot of non-creature spells, so it's another way to sort of like buff maybe your commander or have a good blocker. So something to keep in mind there. Sage Newliths also has that job select, 2 mana, and it has when it enters, you make a 1/1 colorless hero, then attach this to it. Quick creature gets +1/+0, has whenever this creature attacks, untap target attacking creature, and it is a cleric in addition to its other types. So just basically be able to attack and essentially give something vigilance, right? It could be itself, it could be something else. Not amazing, but it is a non-creature spell. It doesn't really fit your commander's requirements, so I don't know. If we were attacking a lot, it could be good to have in the deck. Then you have the 3 Talismans, Thought Vessel, which is great. Tome of Legends helps with drawing cards, right? It enters with a page counter, and then when our commander enters or attacks, he gets a page counter, and you can remove the page counter and draw a card. Archaeomancer's Map is great to get some planes to your hand, and then, you know, essentially, if your opponent's ramping, you can match their ramp. Blue Mage's Cane, another new equipment here. This one's not from the main set, and it has Job Select. A quick creature gets +0/+2, is a wizard in addition to its other types, and has whenever this creature attacks, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcerer from your defending player's graveyard. If you do copy it, you may cast a copy by paying 3 mana, then paying its mana cost. So really cool there. Essentially casting your opponent's spells that are in their graveyard. So pretty helpful and, you know, useful in this deck, I would say. And it's 3, and it fills your commander's requirements. Reaper's Scythe is also cool. Job Select. At the beginning of your end step, put a soul counter on this equipment for each player who lost life this turn. So yeah, you're going to get that pretty much each of your end steps with your commander out. Then a quick creature gets +1/+1 for each soul counter on this equipment is an assassin in addition to its other type. So it does buff your creatures a lot. These equipments, you know, aren't amazing, but like Reaper's Scythe and Astrologian's Planisphere are going to make some big blockers. You're probably not going to attack with them. You're just going to have them as blockers. And then when the creatures die, you have the equipments left over, which is nice. Relic of Legends, tap to add a mana of any color, and then you can tap an untapped legendary creature you control to add one mana of any color too. So because there's like, you know, 12 or plus legends in here, it kind of makes this worth it to have here. It's not amazing. We're going to take some of those legends out, so something to keep in mind. Dancer's Chakram's another new equipment, 4 mana, Job Select. Quick creatures get +2/+2, has lifelink, and other commanders you control get +2/+2 and have lifelink, and is a performer in addition to its other types, and equip 3. So it essentially buffs the creature and your commander, but it's, you know, your commander's not dealing damage. What's great about giving Y'shtola lifelink is that it's dealing damage, so you'll actually be gaining 4 life when you cast a non-creature spell with it equipped. So it's not bad to have that on the battlefield, and it fulfills your commander's requirements. So yeah, pretty solid there. White Auracite is a 4 mana removal spell that also, you know, taps to add white mana, which is neat. And then Coveted Jewel, of course, when it enters, you draw 3 cards, tap it for 3 mana, and but opponents can steal it, so something to keep in mind there. Authority of the Consuls, Very good to gain life and make your opponent's creatures enter tapped. Champions from Beyond is a new card. When it enters, you make X when color its heroes. Whenever you attack with 4 more creatures, you scry 2, then draw a card. Whenever you attack with 8 or more creatures, those creatures get +4/+4 until end of turn. This is going to go in a lot of different decks here. In this one, it's not terrible because we have a lot of tokens that we make and whatnot, but not really the most valuable in here. But it makes the creatures that matter for it with the X part of it. And you can make it trigger your commander's ability, so not bad. Bastion of Remembrance is really good because you make a 1/1 human, and then when a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So again, sort of draining your opponents there. I have Nidhogg as a new card, 3 mana for legendary enchantment. Enchanted creature is black. It's a black dragon with base power and toughness 4/2, has flying, death touch, and is goaded. When Eye of Nidhogg is put into a grave from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. So this goes back to your hand, but you continuously goad another creature and make it harder to block and gives it potentially more power or less power. So very good there. Propaganda is great. Other Pillow Fort effects are solid in this deck. And then Observe Stasis is another card. Flash, enchant a creature an opponent controls. When it enters, remove enchanted creature from combat, then draw a card for each tapped creature its controller controls. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and can't attack or block. So you stop a creature from attacking you, and then you essentially draw cards for each of your opponent's creatures that are attacking, because if you're going to flash this out during their combat step, that's something good there. And then 37 lands. There's no crazy lands in here. Nothing super expensive or anything that's out of the ordinary for these new decks that have been coming out. So this deck, I would say the biggest issue that it has is it's trying to do too many things at once, right? It has a Legends theme matter, it has a tokens theme, it has a, non-creature spell thing. I mean, it kind of, some of that does fit into the non-creature with power 3 or greater, but you've got a few artifacts and equipment here that you kind of don't really need in the deck. So there's a lot of things to change. So we're going to change a little bit here. Let's get right to that. So the 10 cards we're taking out, we're taking out 5 of the creatures, and then we are taking out a sorcery and 4 artifacts. So we're taking out 5 non-creatures, and we are taking out 5 creatures, but the cards we're going to put in more non-creatures, right, than the creature side of things. So Ardbear, I took out, and I would also take out the dragon one too, the one that cares about dragons, but that one can also deal 4 damage to your opponent, so it's not that's why I kept that one in over this. Ardbear just focusing too much on the creature side of it, and not really enough on the non-creature side of it, so I took him out. Hildebrand is interesting because you can continuously cast him, and it gives creature tokens +1/+1. Honestly, you know what? Yeah, because he can block, and then you can recast him. So, you know what? I'm actually going to move back to the main deck. So I added Estinian, Varliniu. I also took out Kryl or Krill or whatever her name is. Most of our creatures aren't going to be as expensive as the non-creatures that we're casting, so we're not always going to get something off this. It's not an amazing body to have in the field. It's pretty situational. I think you can build around this card really well and have a really great commander deck, but I don't think it works fantastic in this one. We took out Good King Mog the 7th just because, again, it's a creature. Sure, it's making a bunch of tokens, but it's a creature. And it's 5 mana. We'd rather be spending that mana on a non-creature spell. And then Urianger Augurelt is interesting because he can cast spells, but he's so slow. He takes a turn to exile it and then takes another turn to cast it, so really slow there. Took out Crux of Fate because this deck had too many board wipes already for a deck that kind of cares about creatures. But also this one doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because their dragon decks are super popular. So you can either screw over the dragon player or hurt everybody else, if that's the case, or, right, you could just wipe the board and maybe your one dragon stays. That's the best case scenario. It's really not that great in this deck. Coveted Jewel we took out. It's a great card if you can get rid of it or get the most value out of it. You can copy it and stuff, but it really doesn't do a whole lot. And then it actually incentivizes opponents to attack you, which we don't want. We want our opponents to attack other people. So we took that out there. Took out Dancerous Chakrams. It's nice. It gives your commander lifelink, which is pretty, neat as well. But we don't need to gain more life, and we don't need to pay 4 mana to get that ability, right? It's not really that important. Sage's Newlist we also took out. It's not good. It doesn't fulfill our commander's requirements, and it's just not worth it. White Auracite you could probably keep in, but 4 mana for a removal spell that's also a mana rock, like, we can't reliably use this as a mana rock because your opponents, unless you're doing a commander, right, with this, your opponents are going to get rid of this to get their creature back. It's going to happen, so not amazing. But it does fulfill your commander's requirements, and does remove something and is a mana rock, so it does a lot. So I could see you keeping this in, right? But and maybe taking out another creature. But for the most part, I want to make sure that we were able to add in some of these good cards, right? We've got 1 creature, and the rest are non-creatures. So diving into it, Teo, Geometric Tactician. When it enters, you make essentially a defender, a good blocker. And then you can make it so you and your opponent draw a card, so you can politic your way with this. And then you can also choose left or right. Until next turn, each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the last chosen direction, and planeswalkers controlled by that opponent. So, very, very good card there, especially if there's one person in particular who's a very big threat to you, or someone who's super combat-centric, right, to make sure they don't attack you. Because, right, why would they attack someone else if you're going to get value off that with your commander's ability? So make them attack another person, and then you can draw more cards with your commander per turn rotation. Enduring Tenacity, 4 mana for a 4/3 enchantment creature. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So having this in the battlefield immediately makes it so that the first non-creature spell you cast with your commander is going to make you deal 4 damage to someone, which is pretty nice. And then when it dies, if it was a creature, returned to the battlefield as an enchantment, which makes it harder to get rid of. So I just kept this just to make it easier to proc our commander to, on our turn, do it, or not just on our turn, but like, that way we only have to cast 1 non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater return, and we can leave some mana open to cast more on our opponent's turns and still get the most value. So good there. I added Brawl's Expertise, right? It returns 3 artifacts and our creatures to their owner's hands. Then you can cast a spell with mana value 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So this is great at casting 2 non-creature spells that are mana value 3 or greater. So I thought that was important to have. It'll automatically give us another card draw, right? It'll replace itself, essentially. And we will gain 4 life, and we'll deal 4 damage to each opponent. So, very good there. Deep Analysis, target player draws 2 cards. We can also flash it back from our graveyard. There's a lot of draw discard in this deck. There's things, we want more things with flashback or ways to get stuff out. And this is a good way to do it. Draw 2 cards, and then, it can be a cheap second spell we cast in a turn. But its mana value is more than 3, so we'll draw a 3rd card, right? Risky Shortcut. Draw 2 cards, each player loses 2 life. We'll gain the 2 life back, but our opponents will all lose 2 life, and then we'll draw a card with Y'shtola. So, very good there. A comment from Aether Drift. Instance, I put Ink Shield in here. Ink Shield is really great. Prevents all combat damage that will be dealt to you this turn. So if you hold the mana open for it, when you cast it, it's going to deal 2 damage to each opponent. You gain 2 life. Then you prevent all the combat damage that will be dealt to you, and you make a bunch of tokens, which is nice for a deck that kind of cares about tokens, but also mainly it's just to give you a bunch of blockers, right? And they can swing back to the following turn. So something to keep in mind there. Soul Shatter is really great. Really prevents your opponents from getting massively valued things on the board, and helps protect you more, right? And it fulfills your commander's thing, so really great there. Unwind is fantastic because you can cast it, and then you untap the 3 lands, so you get to cast another spell if you have another spell in your hand. So very good there. And then, of course, Shark Typhoon, 6 mana. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make an XX blue shark with flying, where X is that spell's mana value. You could cycle it, sure, but that's like a last resort. You do not know how to cycle this unless cycling this. It's like using Cyclonic Rift, singular target. You only use that when you have to. So yeah, but yeah, those are the cards I'm taking out. Those are the cards I'm adding in. I think what I add in makes it a lot more, focused on non-creatures and ones that are going to help us do what our commander wants to do, right? Making sure that we don't have to spend tons and tons of mana to get the card draw out. So hope you like it. Let me know what you take out, what you put in, and what commander deck you're most excited about. Still have the Bant one that has an infinite combo in it, geez, and the Mardu one to come. So make sure to like and subscribe if you like the content, and make sure you don't miss out on more. But otherwise, I'll keep working on the next one, and you take care.